So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. So by the title, we're going to be talking about Sexxy Red being called out for being an industry plant as well as being detrimental to Black women's image. I feel like this is so repetitive for me. I've spoken a lot about this topic just with different examples, but with Sexxy Red being so big, I guess we got to bring this back up. Sexxy Red is from St. Louis, Missouri. She has hit songs such as Pound Town and Ski Yee. They have been super popular this entire summer. If we're being real, I think Sexxy Red had the music scene this summer for the female rappers. Like, she had it on lock. And honestly, the gag is female rap beat out male rap this year. Sexxy Red is currently 25 years old. She has been rapping for quite a while, and I'm not even sure what to take of her. Like, I guess because I've seen this before, I'm numb. So it's not that anything that she says or does bothers me, but at the same time, I don't really buy into her just because it's really not my cup of tea. But I am a fan of female rap music, so I did listen to her entire project. There were actually quite a few bops, and now she's the next big thing. So much so that her entire presence is very debatable and questionable. I feel like when I see her posted on the blogs, half of the comments are gassing her up, and the other half of the comments are things like, there's nothing y'all can say to make me like her or her music. So people are kind of split, but I think we all know that at the end of the day, she does represent the ghetto, ratchet, hood girl aesthetic, and she's undeniably okay with that. She knows exactly what she is. But her standing firm in this did call for commentary from a pretty well-known TikToker. So a TikToker by the name of Dane. I'm not on TikTok, so I didn't know how popular she was, but I think I have seen a few of her videos here and there, and she gave an analysis on Sexxy Red. She basically called her an industry plant, called her detrimental to Black women, and said her lyrics are disgusting and that she doesn't support her. So Sexxy Red caught wind of this and clapped back by saying, "I'm young and turned your old tail mad." And I feel like Sexxy Red does stir up a lot of controversy because I would say she's literally the embodiment of pushing the envelope of Black women's imagery and perception. So I wanted to talk about this because I think it's time for us to get deep about her representation. She's been mainstream for months. I've done like one video pertaining to her, but I've left her alone. But I can only see this multiplying, and if people aren't awake or haven't woken up, I do think we should look at this for what it is and what it could actually be. So I've broken this video down into one long, and I mean, I spent a lot of time on this one, long overall main talking point. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So my one and overall talking point is just speaking about Sexxy Red and what she represents. So Sexxy Red is basically the most recent viral mainstream female rapper. She's actually been rapping for quite a while. If y'all remember, she put out her cover of the Vanessa Carlton 1,000 Miles a few years ago. She had her own version, and I'm not gonna lie, it sounded crazy.
Making my way through the hood with your boo. All his homeboys think I'm cute.
I haven't done a solo video on Sexxy Red because I feel like she's just an extension of things I've already said, so I'd be repeating myself. So y'all know my feelings about what she represents. Between her and Suki Hana, I'm just not into it. And neither was this TikToker named Dane. Now I searched, and it was hard to find the full-length clips of this video because Dana has now privated her TikTok account due to the fact that she's received a lot of backlash for this and it's been posted on other blogs. One thing I will say is some of the pieces that I did find of this clip, she said that she didn't care, that this is how she felt. But if you don't care, why make your TikTok private? You just gotta stand in it. There's been so many times I've said things on YouTube that have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, have caused a lot of conversation that was against me, but I've never changed my video titles. I've never took down a thumbnail or privated my account for any reason. So yeah, being a commentator with strong opinions means you have to stand in what you say. That's why everybody likes to preface their opinions with, "I'm not trying to be a hater," and all of these other prefixes, because honestly, if people said what they really felt, most people wouldn't be able to handle it. But over here on this channel, I say how I feel. So let's take a look at what Dana had to say about Sexxy Red.
Not convince me otherwise that Sexxy Red is not an industry plant that was put here to help finalize the destroying of the Black woman image. They was already had us under attack, and she was here to just finalize the process. The way they trying to force her on us is just crazy. Like, I wanted to go see Drake, but once I found out Drake had her opening for him, absolutely not. Absolutely not am I going to support anything that thing is behind. I'm not supporting it, right? This is the reason why it's time to separate. It's time to separate as Black women, because ain't no way I'm about to be associated with that and Suki Stankiana. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how you feel. At this point, separation has to happen. It's one thing to make trashy music. That is a different level of trash. That's a different level of trash. Kaya's My Neck, My Back, it was bad.
So let me first start off by saying that I agree with her thesis statement of what she's trying to say, meaning the ideology of Sexy Red being a hindrance for Black women as well as the need to separate, that I do agree with. Now, she touched on some other things that in my opinion are neither here nor there. I saw that she compared Sexy Red's look to that of rapper Young Thug, and I will never agree with Black women being compared to Black men or just women being compared to men, because I feel like it's so disrespectful to insinuate that a woman is mannish. And I think she was trying to do this for laughs, but I just didn't find it funny. Like, as someone who is 5'10", I've always towered over everyone, and I didn't really get a sexy body until like halfway through college. So the man jokes were always made in my direction, and honestly still are. So I just can't get with that. Also, I feel like the rant should have just been more about the lyrics and the current state for Black women versus anything else. But those were my reservations. Overall, I do get what she was trying to say, and I think a lot of us do agree. Now, I did see a lot of people reacting and calling Dana out, saying that why is she worried about someone else, and that people should never be this old, concerned about young people, and that Dana was mad that Sexy Red responded to her. I don't know if she was mad. I just didn't think that she thought that Sexy would say something back to her. I don't know who Dana is. Again, I'm not on TikTok. I barely use it. I've been trying to, but I want to touch on her main point, which is the aspect of separation, because I feel like talking about how overt sexualism affects Black women is beating a dead horse. We all know that, right? Like, can I say that and move on? So in regards to separation, I think it actually is time to separate. I feel that after years of doing YouTube and speaking about things that affect Black women within society, separation can be a viable effort that is headstrong and has great intentions, but it's extremely difficult and has a lot of risk because of what is currently transpiring. Now, the reason why I feel like there should be separation is because the excuse of Sexy Red celebrity is that everyone feels that she's authentic. Everyone feels that she represents the ghetto aesthetic that is relatable to a lot of Black women. People say that everyone who is hood or grew up in the hood or is just a part of the Black community in some way, shape, or form knows somebody like Sexy Red. I definitely know a lot of Sexy Red type girls. Went to school with them. I was friends with them. There's a lot of ghetto girls. However, my argument to this whole she's so real and relatable and that's why her representation should remain is the fact that there's no counter offer. For every Sexy Red, Sukihana, City Girls, Glorilla, for every female artist that falls under that category, there is no counterpart. There is no college educated female rapper that leads with something other than sex appeal. Because I know y'all are going to try to say Meg Thee Stallion, but Meg Thee Stallion leads with sex appeal. There is no female rapper that is deemed as classy. There's no female rapper that is deemed as modest. There's no female rapper that is deemed as suburban and leads with things that are social antonyms to what Sexy Red represents. So when people say that it's anti-Black to be against Sexy Red because we are ashamed that the ghetto is being revolutionized, I honestly don't mind the fact that she's ghetto and she's ratchet because she is authentically being herself. Like I said in my recent live stream, my main concern is that her music isn't that good. My main concern is that she doesn't sound good on a track to me. And people critique my music all the time. A lot of the time, I get people who write me and say that, Chioma, I love you. You're so beautiful. You're so well spoken, but music isn't for you. Music is writing. I write every day. I write scripts for YouTube every day. I'm reading off of a script right now. So if you like my commentary, there's really nothing different about me writing lyrics to a beat. And like I told y'all, I truly want to be a ghostwriter. Me being an artist is just an extension of the talent and passion that I have for writing. I've never gotten less than an A+ in any writing class my entire life. So believe me when I say I can write. But in my opinion, Sexy Red isn't a writer. She isn't a lyricist, and she does not have the voice. My concern is her music and of course her imagery and representation. I could care less that she's ghetto or that she's ratchet because I know a Sexy Red personally that I could call right now. But again, there's no counter for all of these ratchet, ghetto, mainstream female rappers for y'all to make the argument that they should exist and have exclusivity in representing Black women. Because if we cannot diversify our representation, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. We always talk about Black women are not a monolith, but when it comes to the music industry, yes, the hell we are. When it comes to what is mainstream and representing a Black woman within entertainment, we are very much a monolith. The only time that we see women that aren't like what is mainstream are in the underground, and there's always something that prevents them from breaking certain barriers, whether it's them not having a certain skin tone, or whether it's them not having a certain body shape, or whether it's them just not meeting the conventional embodiment of a female rapper. And there were some people who argued that if Sexy Red was so hated, her music and her relevance wouldn't be sticking. And I can kind of give credit to that. I don't think she's an industry plant whatsoever. However, she's sticking because she's regurgitating what's already been done. She's not doing anything new, and she's not some type of fresh new sensation. She's an offspring of what already exists in female rap, but just in a more vulgar capacity. See, at first it just started off with being super sexy, you know, maybe cussing and sexual references in the music. I feel like that's Nicki Minaj. She gave vulgar in her music music, but she also gave diversity in her subject matter. She gave talent, and for every raunchy lyric or song, she could back it up with something that shows that Black women are not a monolith. But then you go from Nicki Minaj not having any competition or just any counter partners in female rap for years, and then you bring in Cardi B. Cardi B is not even a competition to Nicki Minaj. I don't even understand why people still compare them, but Cardi B allowed that mediocrity in female rap to preside because I feel like she gave us a facade for a long time that most people didn't really pick up on until recently. When Cardi B first came out, I loved her music. Bodak Yellow was my jam. I still like the song. And then when she dropped her song with G-Eazy, I was really liking her. But when I found out that she didn't write her music and that she's really more or less of an entertainer, stripper turned rapper, I believe that's when the talentless female rapper who uses sex appeal and virality to maintain themselves really went into full effect. Now, Cardi B is not a Black woman, but her appeal definitely is more represented in a Black space. So then after Cardi, you get all of these other female rap acts that are pretty much doing the same thing, but just on a harsher scale, because the more we allow this to slide, people are gonna slip and slide. So you end up with Sexxy Red, who between her fan base, and just average hip hop listeners don't really bat an eye at her songs and her appeal because we've already seen it be done before. So in comes separation. For the Black women who don't want this as their image, for the Black women who feel that they may like this but in moderation or when they're at the club or when they're turning up, but don't want this to be the blanket that covers all Black women, I understand the need for separation. Now, I'll be real, I'm not really sure how to separate. I checked out some of Yanni's live stream the other day and she talked about this. I would definitely suggest for y'all to go watch her video, but I feel like separation is needed because female rappers have made Black women look like a monolith, and Black women don't get the benefit of the doubt to prove that they are any different than what is mainstream. When you specifically look at rap music, the #1 genre right now, and you look at all of the players and you look at those who are on the female gender side, there is really no diversity. You have a few here and there's, I'll give it that, but there's really no diversity. And it's funny because I've been preaching the same message for like the last 3 years, but the amount of videos that I've seen in the past week speaking about female rap music, as well as sexual exploitation, as well as social media causing women to feel certain ways about themselves, it is crazy. See, I've beaten this horse for a long time, but there's a lot of people who are just catching on. And like I said, when I look at the comment section of a lot of things dealing with female rap music, a lot of people are saying that they are tired. However, somebody like Sexxy Red still prevailing shows that although some of us are tired, a lot of people are still fired up by this. So that separation is like wishful thinking. To separate those who can stomach this in moderation and when it's appropriate versus those who avidly promote this and see no wrong in it is very hard because, again, Black women don't get the privilege of being able to have different representation for themselves. And that's the scariest part about this entire narrative that we see play out in entertainment. It's so one-sided and so unfair to the Black women that don't want this, that there's really nothing you can do about it but be a pick-me and a hater for speaking against it like I am. There were a few comments that I saw online that really speak to the situation, and I wanted to share them. An Instagram user named Miami Fide said, "Y'all can be so dense when it comes to reality. Black women especially, but Black people in general, do not get the privilege of individuality. Wherever we go, we represent our whole race. If you've ever been a Black person who has lived in areas with non-Black people, you get it. Furthermore, I do not care if she is young and turned, she still sets a horrible standard for Black women, period. It is a part of an agenda, but y'all swear someone is always trying to kill your fun. All of these male rappers and female rappers are a part of an agenda, whether they are a willing participant or not. But let's keep supporting the very culture that has been uplifted to kill us. That's all y'all nakers care about is fun and escapism. When if y'all looked at reality a little bit more, maybe we could change the reality of our communities instead of trying to mentally escape them through drugs, music, and sex. Sexxy Red is not Black culture or quote unquote authentic as y'all say, but a personification of all of the negative stereotypes other cultures make of us. There's a difference between being young and turned and just being a degenerate promoting negativity to your people for your sole profit." And I'm not even gonna lie, sister said a word, because I know a lot of y'all like to think that myself and people like this commenter are fun police who are angry and bitter women and don't like to see people succeed, but it's not that. I'm very happy for any Black woman who can take herself out of a negative situation and put herself in a positive situation, whether that's mentally, financially, spiritually, in any way. However, I always do have to question at what cost, because yes, she was able to basically turn her life up. She's young and turned, but now you are a walking stereotype that is influencing a lot of young women, whether you are a willing participant or not. And I said the same thing about City Girls. I've said the same thing about all of these female rappers, and it still remains. My thing is, they don't even care to diversify themselves, which shows me that they are a one-trick pony. And it's funny, I was reading a comment and someone someone said that basically, because I've said so much about female rap, that means pursuing music and being successful for me is unattainable because I've talked about these people. But I'm not speaking from a place of hate. I'm speaking from a place of I'm educated enough to know what I'm viewing and how it affects people, and I'm honest enough to not lie about it just to save somebody's feelings. All of these women have admitted that when they got their bodies done, it's because their labels told them that it was better for business. I've heard this from Young Miami, I've heard this from Lotto, I've even heard this from Nicki Minaj. A lot of these girls have said that they have other music, but sex is what sells and they're aware of that. So anything I say is not an attack because the participants are not oblivious to what they're doing. They just don't care because the benefit and the profit and the return means more to them than the impact on their community. Now, going back to the TikToker Dana talking about separation, the reason why I am in favor of it because my authentic self, I don't see that in Sexxy Red. And there's thousands of black girls that don't see themselves in Sexxy Red. So should we be forced to accept the representation that is inauthentic to who we are? Or can we make a devoted campaign for diversity amongst black women if these players are unable to diversify themselves? Because at this point, I don't think any of these rapper girls are really capable of showing us something different unless they are different. The City Girls dropped a new song a few weeks ago, and I pretty much pre-saved all of the female rappers just to stay up to date, and they said nothing different than anything I've heard them say before. But of course, Chioma is the hater for saying this, but it just shows that they themselves are a monolith. But black women as a whole, black women as a term, black women as a community are not a monolith. So the idea of separation, like I said, it's wishful thinking because it's kind of hard to do. There's been decades of this stereotype of black women being plastered to the entire world, but it isn't impossible. I think it's sad that if you're educated or if you're not ghetto or if you're more reserved or if you have a certain look, these less polarizing aspects of black women don't get put on a pedestal. Where are the black female rappers with the college degrees? Where are the black female rappers that are doing active philanthropic work? Where are the female rappers who, when it's all said and done, you can actually consider them somewhat of a positive role model? And I know that nobody is perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but I don't see myself in any of these girls at a major capacity. Hence why I don't feel away when I speak about them. We wouldn't be friends if you weren't famous. So it doesn't matter that you are. I probably wouldn't kick it with you anyway. Like when Summer Walker, Sexxy Red, and Suki Hana had that weekend out after Summer Walker broke up with Lil Meech, and they were in the clubs twerking. I think Summer was doing a handstand with her legs open and her panties showing literally in the club section. I know girls like that in real life, and I don't hang out with them. But that's what gets on the blogs. That's what represents black women. And one thing I don't like is how black people are so closed off to the fact that having these conversations amongst the community does not promote white supremacy. Saying that you don't want to be represented by Sexxy Red is not white supremacy. If you ask me, plastering Sexxy Red and promoting her imagery plays into white supremacy because that's what white supremacists see black women as, and that's what they want to keep black women as. And even more, it actually pisses me off when people say that black women who don't like this image or who don't speak in favor of it are misogynistic. I'm going to drop the beat and be honest. I want somebody to even screen record this, post it to your IG, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, tag me. Just because a black woman is not in favor of another black woman being a certain way, whether it's willingly or not, does not make her misogynistic. Some black women have certain values and standards that are against that type of imagery because that is who that black woman is as an individual black woman. Not because she thinks like a man, not because she supports men more than she does women, not because she's under the spell of somebody's pulsing, piping penis, but because that said black woman simply does not want that imagery to be part of her name, her reputation, and her life. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And I want people to get that into their thick ass brains because if I make any comment about any of these girls, there's always that, oh, you're misogynistic comment. I feel like it's way more misogynistic to directly play into the male gaze and give these men exactly what they're looking for than being against it. I don't want women playing into the male gaze that is used to also disrespect them and hold them down to shallow barriers because I think women are so much better than that. I think black women have so much more to offer to the world than Poom Poom Pink and Booty Hole Brown. Like, I've been waiting to do a video on Sexxy Red. I still want to do one comparing her and Glorilla and the irony and the hypocrisy of both of them. But it's like, I've waited because I can't stand the fact that you can't make comments about a woman as a woman without people labeling you misogynistic. It's gotten to the point where people just think they're smart enough to throw around the word misogynistic as soon as they hear a woman speaking not in favor of their fave, that's what they think. Where is Poom Poom Pink and Booty Hole Brown really gonna take black women and women in general? Owning your sexuality is fine. Leading with sex appeal is fine. But y'all have crossed the line, and that is what the problem is. I don't give a damn about bikini pictures, lingerie, booty poking out, showing how thick you are, cleavage. None of that to me is detrimental. It still plays into the male gaze. Pretty much everything women do in entertainment does, but we've crossed the line, and we crossed it like 3 years ago, and that is what the issue is. I saw a viral clip of Sexxy Red performing at a high school. I'm not sure how recent it was. At first I thought it was around the time where her song Pound Town blew up, but people were also saying that it was from a while ago. But when you have school administrators that know the type of imagery that this woman represents coming to schools to perform, give back, or whatever, it does send the wrong message. And again, nobody's perfect, but kids are so influenced these days that I really do feel for any parent right now, because kids are on this TikTok consuming her content and then embodying it and then becoming adults. We talk about how kids get influenced, but we don't always consider how the influence that you receive as a child transitions into how you behave as an adult. And you know, I can't call people hoes anymore. Apparently that's misogynistic as well. But the whole hoe culture and slut culture is definitely brewing in a lot of young women and girls simply because of music. And I hate that. I hate that people downplay music and how the vibrations and frequencies really do hypnotize a lot of us. The other day I randomly said, if you see me in the club, say what's up, ski. And I was like, damn, Chioma, not you got caught in this too. And I'm just joking, but it was just crazy because I know I'm smart enough to detach music from the artist, and it does take mental strength for you to know how to do that. I don't think it's a common thing though. Most kids and teens are unable to do that. I know for a fact if I heard this song when I was 16, I would have been playing it on my iPod every day. There's a lot of factors as to why this happens. The entertainment industry is exploitative. There's a lot of black women in situations that will do anything to make it out. There's a lot of uneducated young people. There's a lot of white supremacy that exists in higher levels of entertainment that prolong this imagery. And then there's these dumbasses on social media that aren't really smart enough to be logical when it matters. Nobody is saying don't listen to Sexxy Red, but what I am saying is, yes, she does deteriorate the image of black women, whether you like her or not, and she's just one of many that have done it and will continue to do it. The more black people sit idly by and make excuses for it. When it comes to Dana's TikTok, her name is like 1987, which means that she's 36 or about to be 36. And I think us young people, teenagers, those of us in our 20s, a lot of us are very disrespectful to our elders. Now, I'm all for growing up and not tolerating disrespect from anybody just off the basis that they are older than you, especially coming from a Nigerian household. But a lot of y'all are so disrespectful to your elders, and it shows. I don't agree with everything Dana said and how she said it, but I feel like if this message was repackaged in a different way with her still being 36, y'all would still call her old and a hater and a bitter old woman. In what world is 36 old? But just about every TikTok reaction or response that I saw were people saying old people like to speak on what young people are doing. Most of these old people have lived through this, but I'll be real, they didn't live through this the way that we are. They didn't have this access at their fingertips. They weren't obsessed and attached to their cell phones or beepers. They didn't strive to be famous influencers or content creators because there was no such thing like that at the time. The stars of the 2000s and the 90s and the 80s were people with real talent. They weren't just caricatures of stereotypes that got lucky and were promoted because of their virality. So I believe there's a lot of older people that when they speak about this, they're actually not hating. They're actually experienced enough in world relations, being that they've lived through a lot more than us, to know that all of this is getting worse and worse over time, and the racial impacts are very severe. And let's be real, we can substitute Sexxy Red for any male rapper and the message still remains the same. So no, it's not misogynistic. It's having a brain and actually using it to know that this is very much detrimental to the race. Black male rappers have just as much as a detrimental impact to black male youth, and we've seen the effects of this. We've seen young men glorify gang activity, violence, weaponry, and their own levels of promiscuity. The same way we've seen black female youth glorify prostitution, materialism, sex exploitation, and everything else in between. It's a double-edged sword. And I think it's crazy that some people don't think these conversations are necessary, but do y'all ever think, where do white people get their research on how they think black people are? It's through the music. It's through the rappers. Of course, they've done their fair share of BS through history, but in present day, white people who are racist and have an affinity to offend black people garner most of their research from these rappers and then emulate it, or at least use it to speak down on black people. And that's just the surface level. Speaking down is one thing. They can do that in the privacy of their own homes, but the internal and the systemic effect is just as bad. And it does stem from all of this. School just started started. My business is about to start volunteering with local high schools. And one of the things that some of the administrators have talked to me about is the influence that a lot of young kids have that will always be there, but has accelerated in severity over like the last 10 years. I graduated high school 8 years ago, but I can tell there's a major difference between how I was influenced back then versus how the kids are now. I used to watch Disney, That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire, Selena Gomez, Hannah Montana. These kids don't have that. Childlike content is getting younger and younger. I feel like elementary schoolers don't even play with toys like that. They rather be on their phone on TikTok, and even if it's not meant for them to see something, you can't negate how many times they come across Sexxy Red's content or just her song being used. I feel like the movie They Clone Tyrone pretty much showed us exactly what is happening. And there's still a lot of black people who are eating the chicken, using the relaxers, and being hypnotized by the music in the clubs. Again, I'm not saying don't listen to the girl. I'm saying be mentally strong enough to know how to detach from it before it becomes poisonous for you. I'm gonna end with one of 3 comments that I saw on Instagram in regards to Dana's TikTok. One user said, "This lady isn't lying though. Their music is poisonous to our young black ladies. You can't keep your kids from hearing it, and once it's in their heads, subconsciously the lyrics are okay to perform in reality. These ladies aren't mentioning anything about safe sex or birth control." And this is facts. Sexxy Red went viral like a month ago for saying that she does not like condoms, she does not use condoms, she's had STDs before. I mean, even without the music, why are we promoting this? What excuse do people have for that? There shouldn't be any. Someone else said, "It's so low vibrational in these comments." This woman is absolutely correct. Whether it's Sexxy, Suki, these gangster rap artists, or anyone else, they are only signing artists that bring down the community, and I find that weird. FYI, I love me some Sexxy. And I also find this to be true because in the digital age of social media, you cannot convince me that record labels don't come across other types of talented music artists. They just don't promote them or sign them because they have the agenda that they want, and they will continue to push it. And black people in particular will continue to buy into it because trauma bonding and using sex, substances, and violence to cope is what black people do best. And I'm not even trying to down talk the community, but I grew up in North Philly, then I moved out of Philly and lived around white people for the majority of my childhood. Then I went to a PWI, so I know what I see because I know what I see. And of course, there are so many historical factors as to why this is, but I'm just speaking on what also exists. Lastly, someone else said, "I agree with the TikToker, been saying this. Neither her nor Suki are even talented. They aren't saying anything when you really listen to them. This girl doesn't even wear makeup, just throws on a sarong or pajamas and jumps on stage saying a bunch of nothing. The face that y'all praise is wild to me. It's like we're living in an alternate universe. All black women are not the same, and I do not put myself in a category with her. I don't say this about many people, but I'm better than her on any given day. It's time we go back to classism because women like this cannot be in spaces I'm in. It just can't happen." And I know y'all are gonna say that that last one is harsh, but I honestly believe to a certain extent that separation through classism is the reason why our oppressors excel at what they do, because they've been able to make distinctive groups of what they deem as elite. And I'm not gonna say I'm necessarily in favor of that. I just think that it kind of naturally happens in society where if you have money and resources and a certain approach to life, you will do better in life and be better. And with that, we can glorify the hood, we can glorify being ghetto, we can glorify being uneducated, we can glorify our most negative stereotypes in the guise of authenticity. But when you really pull back the layers of all of this, what you get is centuries of white supremacy prevailing by exploiting and capitalizing and profiting from blackness. I don't think assimilation is better than annihilation, but showing the world that this image is the best black people have to offer almost annihilates you regardless. I'm interested to see if there'll be a shift anytime soon. I'm interested to see if people do decide to start separating themselves, and I'm interested to see at what point will the world finally see that black women and black people as a whole are not a monolith. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know your commentary on my commentary down below. What do you think? What do you know? Let me know. If you haven't already, go stream my song Let's Go. It is out on all platforms. Link down below to check out the video. Make sure y'all go stream that. And lastly, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
Be with you. Take a chance, what do you say? I'll wear you, babe, today. Will you come and free my mind? Come, baby, don't waste no time. So is you down for me? Cause this can really go down tonight.
Yeah, let's go.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go.
It's Chioma, yeah. Let's go. Chioma, can you talk about something else? What's going on? Went to school, got a degree, I always say it in my song. Nigerian parents raised me by the book. And now look, big stage, heavyweight, money day, business good. Model girls always looking pretty, just like how they should. I know it's